channel. Today I will be talking about my testimony. I am a little bit under the weather, so I will be drinking my tea a little bit in between, so excuse me while I sip my tea. As a matter of fact, hold on. That's good, y'all. Okay, back to the matter at hand. Today I will be discussing my testimony, y'all. Oftentimes we look at other people and we don't know what they've been through. And I know you probably heard it a million times before, but your testimony is not for you. It is for the person left to you, the person right of you, and just people around you. So many people go through things silently and they think that they're the only one going through it. And sometimes they just don't even know who they can talk to, or they just look at the person and think this person can't be going through that, or this person could have never went through that. But yeah, today, no matter what your thoughts were before this about what my past looks like, you're gonna find out what it did look like today. Alright, y'all, so grab some popcorn, grab some whatever you want to snack on, something to drink, because we're about to get right down to it. Alright, so in order to even start somewhere, I feel like I have to start from the beginning because that's where it started. So yes, let's go. Let's go. I'm not ready, y'all. I am not ready. I'm like, whew, okay. I mean, it's nothing like that I'm ashamed of because, you know, God delivered me from it. But yeah, here we go. Alright, so when I was a little girl, I was that kid that talked to everybody. I promise you, if I was to see you, I would talk to you. I would talk to your mama. I would talk to your daddy, your cousin, your sister, your uncle, your aunt, your grandma, your granddaddy, your friend, your best friend, your best friend's friend. Like everybody. I would talk to everybody, and I wasn't afraid of anybody. And my mom would a lot of the times feel like, you know, or she would just say to me, don't talk to everybody because you might get kidnapped. So she was afraid that I would get kidnapped because I was that friendly. Like there was nobody that was a stranger to me. But a lot of people don't know that about me because that wasn't a very long period of my life. When I was about 6 years old, my mom ended up moving us to a very small place called Girard, Georgia. And this place, y'all, it was, I mean, still is. It's very, very tiny. Very tiny, no stoplights, dirt roads, even though they paved a lot of dirt roads, but it was just, I'm just trying to give you a visual. It was nothing there. And not that where I came from was city, but it was at least I could, you know, walk to see other people, or I could walk to the bakery, walk to, you know, just different places. But here there was literally nowhere to go. So yeah, my mom ended up moving us there. And I would say this was the beginning of me beginning to lose my identity. So yeah, when I got there, I went to a new school. I had a whole new bus route. Before I wasn't even riding the bus. My mom was taking us to school. But yeah, I would ride the bus. I would go to school. And that first day, all I can remember is just the kids and how they looked at me. I had never had a whole lot of kids say a lot about me. The only thing they would say about me at my old school was my hair, because I used to wear my hair in this really huge puff. And so, I mean, I don't see why that would have been different, but I guess at the time little girls weren't wearing puffs as much as I thought they were. But yeah, that was the only time that I had faced anything from the kids. But at the same time, I still had a lot of friends. I still had people who, you know, would say, they wouldn't say anything crazy about my hair. They would just kind of point at it, you know. But anyway, I got here to this new school with all these kids, and the first thing, or the first bit of things were these kids began to tear me down, y'all. Like bad. How I looked, how I act, where I lived, just everything about me. Everything about me, y'all. I couldn't understand it. I had never really faced confrontation before. I had never faced somebody who would just boldly come up to me and say, hey, you're fat, or you're ugly, or why you have to live where you live. Nobody wants to, you know, take you home, you know, just different things that kids would say to me. So yeah, this was the beginning of me beginning to lose myself. I was so confident before, but just that quick, you know, with the kids saying all those things, I began to feel less than. I began to feel like, you know, maybe people thought this about me all along. Maybe I should just shut my mouth. And just to give you guys a little bit more background, my mom kept me in church. When I was little, I stayed in church. So every Sunday I went to church. So I would like to say that I knew of God, but I definitely didn't know God. God to me was just some man that sat in the sky and allowed crazy things to happen. But yeah, so I would say that I really began to take God seriously at a young age. So when the kids would talk about me, I would go home and I would, I didn't know how to pray, but I would go talk to God. I would say, God, I would say, just help me to go unnoticed, I had recently started crying a lot. So I said, God, I don't want to cry. I'm so tired of crying. Just help me not be noticed by these people. And so just that quick, you guys, just that quick. I was that girl who talked to everybody. Now I was that girl who didn't want anybody to see her. I didn't want to be seen by anybody because I didn't want anybody to say anything to me. So yeah, I would continue in this cycle for years, you guys, crying every single night. I remember there wasn't a night that I didn't come home and cry about something someone had said to me. And I wasn't big on sharing because at that point I just felt like my opinion didn't matter. So yeah, I just kept quiet about it. But in the year of 2000, I was about 10 years old. My mom ended up separating from my dad. And to me, that was a really devastating point in my life because my family was being separated, My brother was old enough that he decided to go live with my dad, and then I was with my mom. And at the time, I told her I understood, but I really did not. Like, I was so heartbroken. I was crushed because family was really big to me. I would go to school and I would endure all this, but then I would come home and I would have my family, and I'd laugh with them and talk with them and joke with them, and that was my family. And then I would go home. I would cry later, but, I would have that point in time where I would enjoy that part with my family. So now my family was being separated, and so I was devastated. And that's when the devil began to whisper more things to me, like, you can't tell your mom how you feel. Because by that point, you guys, I felt like my mom had been through so much she didn't want to deal with. This is what I'm thinking in my head. This is what was being whispered to me. Your mom doesn't care because she's been through so much. My mom had already lost her sister. She had already lost her mom, her dad, 2 twin boys, some other family members. Like, she had experienced so much loss in her life, a lot of other hurt that I didn't even know about at the time. So I felt like, why does my little insignificant situation matter? So I didn't even tell her then. So yeah, life just continued. And let me tell you guys, I was already eating a lot, but then after that point of my life, I became a slave to food. A slave. When I tell you there wasn't anything that I didn't put in my mouth, I wasn't even hungry sometimes. And I would eat because there felt like a gaping hole of emptiness inside of me that I couldn't feel. I didn't know how to feel it at the time. So I thought food would do it. So yeah, I got even bigger. So that gave the kids even more to talk about. So yeah, things began to just continue the way they continue. But I remember one day I had to tell my mom that something had happened to me, because one day when I was on the bus and they were taking me home at the actual right time, and this little girl, she looked at me and she stabbed me with a pencil, y'all. She stabbed me with a pencil for no apparent reason. I had no clue why she did it. Like, I literally didn't say anything to anybody on the bus, but I get stabbed with a pencil. I didn't say anything. I just got off the bus. I tried to hold my tears because I didn't want anybody to say anything to me. I didn't want anybody to have anything else to talk about. So I got off the bus and I cried when I got home. And when my mom got home, she found out. And yeah, she had all that stuff taken care of. But let me tell you guys, it didn't stop there. So as I continued in school, things would still happen to me. But I remember getting so fed up. My prayers didn't seem to be working. So I ended up... But the summer before 8th grade, I ended up losing almost 80 pounds. Guys, don't ask me how I did it. I just know I cut out every single thing that I thought was bad. I didn't eat anything fried, anything sweet. I probably didn't eat dairy. I don't know. Whatever it was baked. It was in proportion, whatever. And most of it was, I'm sure, was water weight. But I lost pretty much 75 pounds in one summer. So when I got back to school, I just remember everybody or nobody saying anything to me. People were really shocked. And for me, I was excited. I was like, wow, nobody's saying anything to me. nobody's saying anything. So I was super ecstatic about that. But I just remember continuing on, and I was still in the church, and I was thinking, wow, I prayed to this God for so long. I still don't feel a connection, and I honestly felt like I had, if I can be honest with you guys, I felt like I did a lot of it myself as far as losing the weight. I didn't feel like, the kids stopped talking about me because God made them stop. I felt like I stopped because they stopped because I lost the weight, because that was one of the biggest things they talked about me for, was my weight. But yeah, anyway, I would say, there was still something missing. I had lost all this weight. I looked different on the outside, but I still held on to all these things that they had told me about myself, and I still believed it, even though I was apparently different. So I remember praying this prayer. I said, God, I said, no matter what it takes, I said, you have got to help me know you. So not long after that, I wouldn't even say it was a year after that, you guys, my family ended up getting some of the worst news that we could have ever received as a family. And it was that my brother had died in a car accident. And let me tell you guys how I found out. I was sitting in a Latin class. There were only like 5 of us in there. And we would always listen through the wall. And there was a security guard. And the security guard was speaking through the wall. And I could hear him say, no, not that kid. And he said, Stefan? And I was like, it was like my heart was like, it just stood, my mind, my heart, everything stood at attention. And he said, that kid died. And guys, it's like my whole world stopped. My whole world stopped. I didn't even know what to think at the time. I just remember looking at everybody, and I think people knew, but they didn't really want to say anything, so they just kept their heads down. And I finally said, do you think that's my brother? And they were like, no, maybe it's somebody else. But when I tell you guys, I didn't know everybody, but something in me knew it was him. And so I sat there for an hour with that knowledge. And once I got out of that class, I ran to the front office, and my best friend at the time, her name is Whitney, her mom worked in the front office. And I went to the front office and I said, hey, did my brother check in today? And she looked and she looked, and you guys, it was like the longest moment of my life. And she said, you know what, he didn't. She said, but maybe he's late. And I knew he wasn't late. So right across from the front office was my choral class. So I went into my choral class and I didn't say anything to anybody. As a matter of fact, I just wanted to, there was so much heat and pressure behind me. I wanted to let it all out, but I couldn't. So, a little while later, maybe like 10 minutes later, because meanwhile, you probably like, how is this taking so long for you to find out? There was no way that I should have known that, beforehand, But anyway, 10 minutes later into my chorus class, they ended up calling me to the front office. I already knew what it was, ran out of the room, and I started crying. And my counselor was in the hallway, and she just hugged me. And I was taken to the hospital, and every time another family member found out, we would just cry all over again. And it was a horrible experience, you guys. It was a really hard experience. That's all I have to say. It just felt like a dream. It didn't feel like real life. I didn't know what to think. But anyway, the months after that would be harder than what happened then, because now that my brother had died, it was really hard on my family. My dad, it was like he had died too. It's like he was not himself. And my mom, she was getting along a lot better than my dad and I. And now I know it's because she had God with her during the time. She had a hope that we didn't have. At the time, I was struggling with believing God. And this was the point where it really knocked me off course. I was like, God, I can't see how you would allow me to cry throughout my whole childhood, and now you want to take my brother away from me. You took my family away from me. Like, what do you want from me? This couldn't be. Like, I didn't believe it could be. So I just fell out with God, y'all. I didn't talk to God. I didn't want to have nothing to do with him. I didn't even think, I was like, maybe he ain't even real, Why am I so nice? How am I so nice and I have to go through this? Like, I've never done anything to anybody. Why do I have to go through this? So yeah, I remember going off to college, y'all. I was lost, I was broken, and I was confused. And I just remember joining this philosophy class. And in the class, you guys, out of all the students, out of all the debate topics, I ended up in a group of maybe like 8 people, with 4 people on the side to debate, is there a God? 4 people to debate, is there not a God? I was like 100 and something students. I end up on the team that had to debate that there wasn't a God. And this wasn't a problem to me, because I was like, you know what, maybe there's not. And over the course of time, over me doing my research, I had harbored so much anger in my heart about this situation, guys, that I would end up, being one of the ones that would persuade most of the class that God wasn't real, especially the God of the Bible. That was the key thing. The God of the Bible was not real. And I even ended up, out of everybody, I ended up convincing myself that God wasn't real. So when I got out of that class, I said, you know what? I'm going to find out who the real God is. And so I began to try to figure out, okay, what is God's character like? Because he's clearly not who the Bible's God claims he is. So I began to look into all these things, but y'all, nothing stuck. Nothing stuck. I remember at one point I even became atheist. I claimed atheist, and that didn't last long, because I could look outside, I could look at the sun, the moon, the stars, I could look at everything and know that there was a intelligent design. I knew that this couldn't be random, guys. To me, it just couldn't be random. There had to be some intelligent designer. So that's when I began to delve into different religions. I began to delve into the occult. Just everything I believe began to evolve. And that's what this whole universal thing came together, where I took a lot of different religions, including Christianity, things from each one, and it was like this one thing that I could take. I just take from each one, and it became this one thing, and that was the New Age. And at the time, I didn't even know it had a name. It was just kind of from the books I read, these self-help books, just a lot of crystal meditation, just a lot of stuff I was reading about started to form my beliefs. And so, you guys, to me, this was a very real thing to me, because this was the point where I began to talk to my spirit guides, and I began to get answers back. And I was like, oh, wow, like, this is real, because now things are moving. I would talk to my spirit guides. They would tell me things that I'd never known, or not never known, but that I didn't know. Or things about people that I shouldn't have known. And I was like, okay, I'm on to something. So I began to delve into that. Like I said, different occult practices. Just so much. I would have this collection of crystals that I would believe I could meditate with. I thought they had like vibrations. There's just so many certain terms in this new age that we get caught up on, but it's a lot behind it. But I'm not going to get into that too deep right now. I'm just going to tell you, my story. But yeah, I would believe I could get power from these crystals, guys. I believe that, this is where I got my power from. So I would meditate on them, and I would, listen to my spirit guides, and they would tell me things. And let me tell you guys, for a while, I felt like that was it. I began to become passionate again, passionate about something. I would try to tell everybody around me, but when I tell y'all, nobody around me wanted to hear that. God, for some reason, even when I was in that, God surrounded me with godly people. The people around me had wanted to do nothing with that. But I was trying to convince them my hardest, because I was passionate about it. But then some years went by, and I remember I got to a point again where I was like, wow, I still feel empty inside. So I was still searching. I believe that this was God's first call on my life. So after that, I became super depressed, because I couldn't figure out how I had gotten into all of that. And I still didn't know what was going on. I didn't feel definite. I didn't feel for sure. And so I remember getting so depressed that I ended up turning to drugs. Not like what I would consider hard drugs, but a drug is a drug. I ended up turning to marijuana. That was my getaway, you guys. Like, if I could find marijuana, like, I was introduced to it before I was depressed, but once I was in that place, it was like, that was my go-to. So yeah, I would smoke this marijuana, and I would get so high that my problems were not an issue. Like, if a problem tried to come into my mind, it would disappear so fast. And that's what I loved about it. I was at a point where I didn't feel like I could talk to a therapist, because I felt like if I tell somebody the things that I'm experiencing, they might think I'm crazy. But anyway, I continued on, and I ended up going to a new school. I transferred schools. I got into a respiratory program. And I ended up delving back into the occult because I didn't know what to do with myself. And then things began to get stronger. I began to get more crystals, and then, more and more things will be opened up to me. So I'm like, okay, maybe I'm back on track, and I started to feel a little bit more fulfilled, and I started to meet people just like me. But yeah, I remember when I graduated, it was hard on me because I knew that I was going to have to leave the city again. I was like, why am I being moved so much? Why am I having to move so much? But yeah, I ended up coming here to Savannah, and I did not want to come here. When I tell you everything in me, I did not want to come here at all. It was horrible. But I ended up being here, and within a few months, I met my now best friend, and her name is Davia. And I remember when we first met, we ended up clashing almost instantly because of our faith. I believe one thing, I was passionate about it, and she believed in she was a Christian, and she is still a Christian, but she was strong in what she believed, and I'm strong in what I believe. And I'm like, no. But for some reason, like, even to this day, we're like, gosh, how did we remain friends? But yeah, even she says, I wouldn't be here. The only reason I'm here is because God is telling me to stay. Something like that. So yeah, of course I didn't believe in her God. I didn't believe in God. But yeah, I remember continuing on. We were just the best of friends, even though our faith was something that kind of divided us. I remember one day, though, I started to get depressed again, and things were really bad between us. I was always moody. I was always, in my room. I was always, not talking to Davy. I treated her the worst, even though she was the person who always had my back. I treated her the worst. I would go to work. I would think everybody was against me. I would think people were taking advantage of me. And maybe sometimes they did. But, I would really feel the effects of it. I would go to work and put on this mask, but deep down I was hiding a lot of stuff. And it began to seep into every part of my life. Even people at work would say, well, what's wrong with Stephanie? And people just really didn't know the half of what was going on with me. But I remember one day my friend's mom ended up trying to pray for me. And I remember getting so mad, y'all. So mad. And I remember, I don't know why I felt like this ripping feeling. I wanted to cry, but I also wanted to tell her to just be quiet. So I remember running into the house. I went and looked in the mirror, you guys. And let me tell you, when I looked at myself, I didn't even recognize myself. I didn't recognize myself. And now I know it was whatever it is. It was that thing that had attached itself to me. That thing that I had opened so many doors when I was delving. I was letting these, what I thought was a spirit guide was a familiar spirit. I was letting those things in. I was drawing energy from crystals. I was just letting so much stuff in through the things that I was practicing. Astral projection, trying to leave my body. All these things let so much in, and I was just opening that door freely for them, and I didn't even realize it. So yeah, I didn't know who I was, and so at this time, I believe that this was God's second call on my life. And y'all, I think the devil knew it was serious this time, because now my spirit guides were no longer my friends, you guys. They were they were demons. They were ugly. Like, I would go to sleep in the middle of the night, and I would wake up and have things in my room beside my bed holding me down. I would not be able to talk. I would be, trying to scream, and I wouldn't be able to scream. And these things would like hover over me. This one I remember really, really well is this one that I call the Hat Man, that I actually looked up online, and you can go look up the Hat Man. But this thing had it just appeared that way. But it was really dark. It was black, had a top hat on and a 3-piece suit. And, yeah, he was holding me down, and he would not let go. He really tried to get me. But, yeah, at the time I may have called on Jesus, but I didn't mean it, cause I didn't really believe in his power. So yeah, I didn't really believe in the power of Jesus, but I would call on Jesus, and I wouldn't get out of it, but eventually I would. And as I would go to work, like I said, I felt like everybody was after me. I would come home sometimes. I would be on the floor, and I felt like I couldn't get up. I just wanted to die. These things would torment me all the time, day and night. And I just remember one time I was on the floor, and I said, God, I said God with a big G now, not God with a little G, and now all these other gods. But I said, God, I had to specify God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. I said, if you don't get me up right now, I'm not going to be able to get up. Because there were so many suicidal thoughts running through my head. I never went through it. I never tried. But I wanted to die. I didn't want to live. I just wanted to die right then. I was like, God, just take this misery away from me. Yeah, I remember being able to get up off the floor that day. And, you know, months continued to pass. And I did a lot of stuff I'm not proud of. But I remember one night, my friend and I ended up getting into the biggest argument of our friendship. And at the end, she said, you know what? She said, Stephanie, just give God another chance. And I told her, I said, I can't give your God another chance. I was hurt. I had been through so much hurt. I felt like God had hurt me so much personally. I felt like I felt like there were so many things going on in the world. But personally, I felt hurt by a God that said he could love me like that and let me go through so much when I had done nothing to anybody. So I told her all these things, and I went to bed that night, and I didn't know what was going to be of our friendship. I didn't even know if we were going to be living together anymore, because at the time we had lived together, and I didn't know what was going to be. But anyway, when I got up that morning after I finally fell asleep, I remember looking around my room and right in the middle of my bookshelf. As a matter of fact, that's the same bookshelf. When I looked in the middle of the bookshelf, at the top, there in the middle of all my idols, of all my books about meditation, about astral projection, about afterlife, about reincarnation, all these things, there was a Bible, y'all. The King James, there was a Bible there. Why would I keep that Bible? Why would I keep that Bible? Because I had to take the books off the shelf to put them back on when I moved. So yeah, that Bible was still there. And I just remember I went and picked it up and I began to read it. And y'all, I didn't understand the word. Because I already told y'all it was the King James Version. But I couldn't read any of it. But you guys, in the matter of less than a second, I always tell people I had an encounter with God. I had an encounter with the big G God, the God of the universe, the God who created everything in the universe, everything that we can't see, everything that we can see. I had an encounter. I had an encounter, and I think it was because I was at a place of complete broken. I was just broken. I was broken. I didn't know. I really wanted to. Deep down, I wanted to live. I said I wanted to die, but deep down, I wanted to live. I wanted to be right. I wanted to do right. I wanted to know the truth. So yeah. The best way I know how to explain this is like God. I always tell this to people. It's like God literally put me on like a slingshot. And it's like he flung me into himself. You remember how Moses, some of you know the story of Moses, how Moses said, God, show me your glory. And God said, you cannot see my full glory as a human because you would die. Anybody as a human, if you saw me in my full glory, you would die. But I will hide you behind a rock and I will pass by you and let you see my hind parts. That's what I felt like God did to me. He showed me a part of his glory. He downloaded so much wisdom in me that day. It's like I knew things like way beyond. Like the stuff that these spirit guides were telling me were nothing compared to what God revealed to me that day. What that spirit that he put in me that day. When I tell you I was born again, this girl was born again. Born again. And so when I opened my eyes, you guys, I looked around my room and I saw those idols and I began to tear them down. They disgusted me. And so I began to put them in boxes that I had from moving and I went to throw them away. I was going to sell them, but then I thought, nope, I can't. I went and threw them away. And I just remember telling my friend, God is real. So yeah, that's my story of how God delivered me from the new age. How I even got into the new age. So yeah, it's been a really cool journey for me, like to know the truth. It's so freeing. It is freeing. Like there has not been anything that I have studied that has told me the history of everything and the future. You know what I'm saying? The Bible tells me so much. When I literally say that scripture, Hebrews 4:12, the word of God is alive and powerful, sharper than any two-edged sword, able to cut between soul and spirit. That is so important in my life right now because it literally cuts between my soul and my spirit. I am led more by my spirit now than my soul, and I can tell that there is a difference. I can tell, like you guys, I am so feel like whole. I'm not perfect. Christians aren't perfect now. People get that wrong all the time. None of us are perfect. But thank God for his grace. Thank God for his grace, and thank God for his mercy, because I wouldn't be where I am, guys. I think about all the times where I could have died in my unbelief. There's an eternity out there. There's an eternity. And I don't do this to try to change people's mind, but I do share my testimony because it is for other people. Like, other people need to hear this. So yeah, a lot of people don't even think about God. A lot of people don't. And that's the sad part, you know. It's just so sad to me. Like, not saying, oh, you know, people are like, oh, you think you're better, but I don't think that. I'm genuinely sad because I want people to know the truth, because I know the place that I came from. I know the place of thinking that Christians were sheep, you know, and I look at the people who always persecute Christians. You know, we're not perfect. You know, there could be someone else in another religion who does something horrible, but when you find out that person is a Christian, oh my gosh, we are crucified. Like, we are like, you know, but you know what? It's fine. You know, when people try to come to me and tell me stuff, I'm like, I get it. You're not ready. Those who have the ear to hear will hear. And when I tell you, when I had the ear to hear, I heard. And so yeah, I'm going to continue to do all I can to share God's word. I'm going to continue to do all I can to be his hands and feet. I'm going to continue to do whatever I can to give him the glory. I'm going to I'm going to be obedient. It is very hard to be obedient. A lot of people don't really know what it is to be a Christian with the right relationship with God. It is hard. It is harder than I've ever even experienced when I didn't have problems when I even believe in God, I didn't have as many struggles as I have now. But now, when I tell you I have a hope, I'm more free. I am more I just feel so like I can do anything. I literally feel like I can do anything. But yeah, God shines through me. I'm glad that people can see him when they see me. So yeah, that is my story. I hope you all got something out of that. Even if it was just, wow, I didn't know that about you. Or maybe there's somebody who is struggling with that. I want you to know that God still loves you no matter where you've been, no matter what you've been through, no matter what you believed. God loves you. Come back to him. He loves you. He will accept you with open arms. So yeah, thank you for watching, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your day or night whenever you're watching this, and I'll talk to you guys in the next one.